Days lives. Dr. Rolf's shocking discovery and the secret lab explodes. March 12, spoilers and deep analysis. Okay, stop what you're doing right now, because what is about to go down in Salem on Thursday, March 12th, it is unhinged in the best possible way. We've got a kidnapping plot that's unraveling at warp speed. A mad scientist who is about to walk into the last thing he expected to find. And E.J. DiMera, beautiful, arrogant, delusional. E.J. DiMera is still somehow convinced he's the smartest man in the room. Spoiler alert, he is absolutely not. I'm your host, and if you are a true DOOL diehard, you already know that when Dr. Wilhelm Rolf is surprised by something, that is not a small thing. That man has resurrected the dead. He has cloned people. He has rewritten brain chemistry like it's a grocery list. So when Rolf walks into a room and his jaw drops, buckle up. We are in for a ride. Let's break all of this down, the spoilers. Yes, but more importantly, what it all means. Because there is so much history baked into this storyline. So many layers connecting back to plots from years ago. And I want to make sure we're seeing the full picture together. The Owen Kent problem and why Brady Black deserves more credit than he gets. Let's start with Owen Kent, played by the always compelling Wes Ramsey. Brady Black, and yes, I will say it, Eric Martsolf has been absolutely cooking lately in these scenes. Brady has now officially put Owen Kent on the map as the prime kidnapping suspect, and this single act of connecting those dots has set off a chain reaction that is going to ripple through Salem for weeks. Now Steve Johnson is on the hunt. And listen, when Patch is locked in, when Stephen Nichols is in full ISA investigator mode with that one good eye narrowed and his jaw set, it is over for whoever is on the other side of that investigation. Owen Kent has no idea what's coming for him. Here's what the spoilers are telling us. Steve is going to piece together that Owen was the night security guard at EJ's secret laboratory. Think about that for a second. This isn't just a random thug. Owen was positioned there. Deliberately, he was placed in proximity to Lexi Carver's revival research, and he was placed there by Dr. Rolf, not EJ. And this is where I have to push back against what I think a lot of fans are going to assume. The easy read here is EJ is behind everything. EJ is always behind everything in Salem, right? But I actually think EJ is being played in this particular arc, and I find that fascinating. EJ met Owen in that lab with Owen's face hidden. EJ does not know who this man is. EJ is operating on incomplete information. And for a DiMera, for a man who built his entire identity on control and omniscience, that is genuinely dangerous territory. EJ thinks he's running the show. Rolf is running the show. Those are two very different things. And history tells us that when those two agendas collide, Salem burns. The historical connection, because this has happened before, and we need to talk about it, okay? Let's zoom out for a second. Because here's what makes this storyline so rich for longtime viewers. Cast your mind back. Rolf's secret laboratories have been a recurring element in this show for decades. We're talking about a man who kept Stefano DiMera's consciousness in a microchip, a man who brought back Jack Devereaux, Will Horton, and perhaps most relevantly right now, who has been obsessively devoted to the DiMera legacy in ways that EJ himself has never fully understood or controlled. Rolf's loyalty is not to EJ. Let me say that louder for the people in the back. Rolf's loyalty is to the idea of the DiMera dynasty, to Stefano's vision, to a legacy that Rolf himself helped construct. EJ is just the current vessel for that vision. And if EJ becomes a liability, history suggests Rolf will not hesitate to reroute. Now we have Lexi Carver, Nikki Crawford stepping into this enormous legacy role at the center of this revival plot. Lexi's history in Salem is heartbreaking and complicated. She was a woman torn between two worlds her entire life, the Demera darkness she was born into and the Johnson, Brady, Carver goodness she chose to embody as a doctor, as a mother, as a friend. Her death from that brain tumor was one of the most genuinely devastating storylines this show has produced in recent memory. So when I hear that Rolf is trying to bring her back, my instinct isn't pure excitement. It's complicated, because Lexi chose a lot in her life. And revival storylines on this show, we've seen enough of them to know they're never as simple as pressing an undo button on grief. Oh, and watching Lexi, that's Rolf's operation. That's Rolf's agenda. The question I keep coming back to is for whom? What does Rolf actually want with a revived Lexi Carver? And does that align with what EJ thinks he wants? I don't think it does. And that is a powder keg. Stephanie and Jeremy, the hostage situation that just won't quit. Now let's talk about the warehouse. Because Stephanie Kyriakis and Jeremy Horton are in absolute survival mode right now. And I am here for it. Stephanie, Abigail Klein, absolutely holding it down in these scenes, managed to steal Owen's phone and get a 911 call out. Brilliant move. Genuinely brave. But Owen found out. And now she's tied up again. You know what? Though, let's give Stephanie her flowers for a moment. Because this woman has been through the ringer. Longtime fans remember everything she endured during the original Owen kidnapping arc, yes. This is not the first time Owen Kent has terrorized a member of this family. And that is not a coincidence. It is a deliberate creative callback that I think deserves way more attention than it's getting in fan conversations. Right now, the original Owen storyline was genuinely traumatic for Stephanie. It was brutal television, and now, years later, to have Owen back the same man with what appears to be an obsessive fixation that never fully resolved, and to have him targeting a Kyriakis woman again. That is dark, cyclical storytelling. And when Days does this kind of thing intentionally, I respect it deeply. Jeremy Horton being there adds another fascinating wrinkle. Michael Rourke has been bringing real energy to Jeremy. And the dynamic between Jeremy and Stephanie in that warehouse, two people who maybe wouldn't be natural allies under normal circumstances, forced to combine their wits, is honestly some of the best chemistry this show has generated in months. They're not giving up. The spoilers confirm it. They are going to scheme their way toward another escape attempt, and I am holding my breath. Rolf's big shock. What does he find? And why does it change everything? Here's the moment I am most hyped about going into Thursday's episode. Dr. Rolf Richard Wharton doing absolute masterclass work in this role. By the way, bringing this character a dignity and menace that could have so easily tipped into pure camp doctor. Rolf is going to walk into that warehouse and find Stephanie and Jeremy, and he is going to be shocked. Now think about what that means for a man like Rolf. This is someone who plans in 27-dimensional chess moves. Everything in his world is calculated, controlled, anticipated. Surprises are not part of his operating system. So to have two hostages that he apparently didn't know were being held there, or at least didn't expect to find in that condition at that moment, is a genuine disruption of his entire operation. The spoilers tell us that Jeremy and Stephanie will beg Rolf for help. And here's where I think this gets genuinely psychologically complex. Rolf is not a monster in the way that Owen is. Owen's motivation is obsession. Rolf's motivation is science and legacy. He doesn't want blood on his hands if he can avoid it. He wants his research protected. He wants the work to continue. So he's going to be caught in a real dilemma. Let them go. Risk everything he's built being exposed. Keep them, escalate this into something that could draw exactly the kind of attention that destroys the lab. There is no clean exit from this moment for Rolf. And I genuinely cannot predict which way he jumps. What I can tell you is that this is the kind of moral inflection point that separates interesting villain-adjacent characters from one-note obstacles. And I'm hoping that the writers let Rolfe wrestle with this genuinely, because Richard Wharton can carry that complexity beautifully. Steve, Rafe, and Alex the Cavalry is finally mobilizing. On the rescue side of this equation, things are finally starting to move with real momentum. And honestly, about time. Steve is recruiting Rafe Hernandez, Galen Gehring, bringing that reliable, steady energy that Rafe always brings to investigate the secret lab. And the spoilers hint at surveillance footage potentially coming into play. Now that is interesting, because if there is camera footage from inside or around that lab, it's not just about finding Stephanie and Jeremy. It's potentially about exposing everything. The Lexi Revival Project, Owen's role, Rolfe's operation, and yes, EJ's involvement, however limited or willfully ignorant it may actually be. And then there's Alex Kyriakis. Robert Scott Wilson has been on an incredible trajectory with this character. And Alex teaming up with Rafe for a lab search before the weekends is exactly the kind of action hero moment this character needs. Alex has the motivation, it's his family. He has the resources, and now he's got a law enforcement partner to make the search legitimate. I want to be real with you for a second. Though I love this ensemble, but I do think the show sometimes rushes the rescue in ways that shortchange the captivity. Some of the most powerful soap storytelling happens in those confined spaces where characters are forced to be raw and vulnerable with each other. I hope we get more of Stephanie and Jeremy before the cavalry breaks down the door. Let those scenes breathe. Kaida. Cat Green and the wild card we've been sleeping on. Can we talk about Kayla Johnson for a moment? Because Mary Beth Evans has been absolutely phenomenal navigating this storyline. And the emotional stakes for Kayla are enormous. This is a woman whose distrust of EJ DiMera is bone deep and completely earned. Their history is complicated in all the worst ways. And every new revelation about EJ's involvement in this secret lab project is going to layer more fuel onto a fire that's already burning hot. The spoilers tell us Kayla's going to turn to Cat Green, Annalyn McCord, who has been a genuinely fun addition to Salem's ecosystem, and specifically asked Cat to crack into the secret lab. Now, this is a big deal. Kayla asking for help, especially from someone like Cat, who operates in slightly more morally flexible spaces, signals how desperate and how determined she is. Cat is going to do what Kayla asks. And I think that's an interesting character moment for Cat, too, because Cat could easily play both sides here. She could freelance, she could sell information to the highest bidder. The fact that she's choosing to be loyal to Kayla says something about who Cat is choosing to become in Salem. And I'm watching that arc with real interest. EJ's grand reveal and why Paulina Price is the most interesting variable right now. EJ DiMera revealing the rest of his plan to Paulina Price, Jackie Harry, who brings an energy to this show that is genuinely irreplaceable, is the scene I think might be the most consequential of the entire episode. Even if it doesn't get the flashiest treatment, Paulina has decided she won't stand in the way of the Lexi Revival Project. But here's my question. Does Paulina actually understand what she's consenting to? Does she know the full scope of what Rolfe is doing in that lab? Does she know about Owen? Does she know about the kidnapping? Because if she doesn't, and I strongly suspect she doesn't, then EJ is about to loop her into something that she will eventually feel deeply betrayed by, and a betrayed Paulina Price. That is a force of nature. Jackie Harry can do righteous fury better than almost anyone on this show. And I will be first in line to watch Paulina turn on EJ when the full picture finally comes into focus. EJ thinks this is about honoring his sister's memory, and maybe there's a thread of genuine love in that. But EJ always convinces himself that his intentions justify his methods. That is the core of his character, this inability to separate the ends from the means. This belief that DiMera love excuses DiMera destruction. It doesn't EJ, it never has. So here's where we land heading into Thursday, March 12th. Rolf discovers Stephanie and Jeremy. Owen retaliates after Stephanie's phone theft. The 911 call may be the thread that unravels everything. Steve and Rafe build their case. Alex joins the search. Kat goes rogue on Kayla's behalf, and EJ keeps pulling Paulina deeper into a plan built on a foundation